Welcome everybody to midweek meditation. My name is Wendy and I live on, sorry again, I have to admit people. I live in Redwood City, which is historically part of the Ramaytush people. And there's actually a talk tonight I'm very excited about, somebody who's a descendant of the Ramaytush people. And the small tribelet that lived in the Redwood City on the edge of the bay was called the Lamshin people. And so I like to honor those wonderful stewards of this land that we were on, who lived here for a very long time, but are no longer here. If you're new and you want to introduce yourself in the chat and say where you're from, or if you're not new and you want to introduce yourself in the chat, you can do that as well. And I'll look at it later. So the focus today is, I had an idea that I was going to probably come back to the breath for a fair amount of these next few weeks, just because, with everything that's going on, especially out here in the West with the fires, but in general with COVID-19, it's like we're not breathing as deeply. We're holding our breath as we're walking by people. And so to remind us that breathing is good, and especially if we can do it in our own house, in our own living space where we feel comfortable, this is a great time to practice breathing deeply. And the breath is so central to meditation in all traditions, certainly in Jewish meditation and in Buddhist meditation. It's hard to imagine there isn't a meditation that isn't central to the breath. We always have it with us, so we don't need anything special. We can just use the breath in any time that we need to calm the nervous system down and return to some sense of our own beingness and inner peace. We can do that. Meditation in general breaks out into a couple of different categories. There's meditation that helps us to concentrate and focus the mind. And there's meditation that helps us to become aware and mindful of what's going on in the mind. There's also, in Jewish meditation, there are Kabbalistic meditations where they are focusing, concentrating meditations, but they're designed to make us feel the oneness and the unity. If you use God, to feel connected to the divine and God. And then there's also Ayin meditation, which we tried a few weeks ago, which is trying to completely empty yourself. But if in what's usually being offered in meditation, it's usually either focus or concentrated meditation or mindfulness meditation. And today we're going to do a little hybrid of the two of those, using the breath both to help concentrate and focus our mind. The more we can concentrate and focus the mind, the better we can utilize the mind and not just have it be something that we're not feeling. It's doing what it's doing and we're not feeling like we understand or like where it's going. So we'll do that. I was thinking about this particularly because for those of you that are Jewish, and I know not everybody who comes or watches the videos is Jewish, but for those of you that were in the cycle of the Jewish holidays, we just finished Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We did some intention setting and trying to be our best selves. And if you're anything like me, you may have already missed the mark on that. Set some intention, really good intention on Yom Kippur. And then, okay, day 2, day 3 after Yom Kippur, didn't quite do that the way I wanted to. So I thought it would be nice to use our meditation to remind us that intentions are good, and ways that we want to become our better, most skillful self are good, and we're human, and we are going to, even the day after Yom Kippur, even 2 days after, still be in this messiness of human beingness. And so we're constantly waking up, constantly changing. and constantly remembering how hard it is when we set some ideal for ourselves to actually meet that. Doesn't mean we don't want to set some ideal and then we don't have moments that we actually are in that ideal place. But a lot of times we're still struggling with how we haven't quite haven't done that. Um, one of the ways that I like to think about this is um, that you can think about this both psychologically and spiritually, as that we're like a rubber band and we can stretch for something like Elul and the Yamim Norin, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We can stretch ourselves. And then, like any rubber band, we contract back. But if we keep doing the practices that stretch us, eventually we're going to stretch what is that contracted place of the rubber band, and it's not going to be so constricted. So we're working against our own stretchy recoil. And the more we work at that, or one other way to think about it is whatever is our baseline, we're raising our baseline. So we're doing something less, or we're turning in a way and we're doing more of what it is that we want to be doing. And I have this lovely reading. It's a little long, but I really want to read it to you. I don't know if people are familiar with Mark Nepo. He's a Buddhist and he wrote this wonderful book called The Book of Awakening. And lo and behold, the reading for today just suits. So I want to read this to you. And if you're interested in this book, he has a reading for every day, and then he has reflections afterwards. I'm not going to do the reflections with you today, but so it's entitled for September 30th, We Are Rare. And he says, we are rare, not perfect. With our hands full of groceries, our heads full of things to do, our hearts full of memories, and our dreams full of plans, we tend to think if we could only get away or finish crossing off the things on that list, if we could only undo what has been done or do what needs to be done, we might then live more completely, more perfectly. But we are human beings, flawed, colorful beings that eat plans and memories for food. This is a deep paradox at work in us. For though we aspire to self-mastery and peace of mind, we are only momentarily whole. As conscious beings living in bodies, we are worn down by the days until we flash open to everything. These are moments of enlightenment, when the clarity and compassion of centuries rise in us, and we are suddenly more than we are, only to trip on the garbage the very next day, or to say something hurtful the very next minute to the one we most love. I used to think of these come downs as failures, as evidence that I wasn't trying hard enough, and they would prick me with slivers of inadequacy. I often felt discouraged, as if there was something essential I just couldn't learn. For a while, I felt deeply flawed. But I've come to understand that this is only an earthiness of our human condition. It is not to be corrected or eliminated or transcended, just accepted. We are in moments pure and ageless as light. And with the very next breath, we drop things or bruise the treasures of a lifetime. We need to soothe ourselves, not blame ourselves. We are rare, not perfect, and seem destined to know all there is briefly, only to pound it into bread. So I hope you found that as delightful and rich as I did. I'm sure Sarah's going to ask me to send it out, so I'll put it in the email list. If you're on my email list, I'll send it out so that you have it. And I just wanted to say that this really resonated with me. I remember the first few times I would go off to a silent meditation retreat, and most of the meditation retreats I've done over the last number of years have been metta. So they're loving kindness. So I'm filled up with loving kindness for myself, and I'm filled up with loving kindness for everybody, even those people I have difficulty with, even people in politics. I could send them loving kindness meditation. And then I'd walk in and I was just like, this is the new me. And my husband would say something and I'd like lose it. And it was like, oh boy, that lasted for how many seconds when I walked through the door? And now I just recognize that, that was me stretching out with my rubber band and feeling like I could be this big, compassionate soul all the time and expecting, I don't know what, from my husband. When I came back, all of a sudden I was back in the reality of, you know, life is life and it's challenging. So now I am much more try to set my intention to be just the best me that I can be, and know that over time I am getting to be the best me that I can be, but it is sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Um, so how's the sound? We still good? All right, great. Okay, so today what we're going to do is use the breath to focus us a little bit more than we have in the past. And as I said, weave in some mindfulness practice as well. So for this breath meditation, what we're going to do, instead of just focusing on a single breath, which is what we have done with every breath meditation before, is we're going to actually focus on multiple breaths, or do our best to focus on multiple breaths. And what this does, it helps us to focus, concentrate the mind, and notice more than a single breath. I will pretty much guarantee that at some point you're going to lose that focus. And then when you lose that focus, then you come back and you start doing it again. So what I encourage you to do is to, and this is the mindfulness part of the practice, is to be curious about what happens when you get distracted. Is it the in-breath? Is it the out-breath? Is there, can you stay focused for a certain period of time? Like you never make it to 3, or you never make it to 5, or whatever it is, just to be curious, not to be tough on yourself, but to be curious. So what we'll do is we'll mentally count each breath at the end of a cycle. So you'll breathe in, you'll breathe out, and internally you'll say 1. And then you'll breathe in and you'll breathe out, and internally you'll say 2. And when you notice that something else has gotten in there besides you're focusing on your breath and you're counting the breath, you'll say, I'm distracted. What do I notice? And then come back to 1 again. The counting helps the mind sustain the attention for a little bit longer, because what happens is we get bored easily. So same breath in, same breath out, same breath in, same breath out. We get bored and the mind starts being distracted. Counting can be a way to help to keep the mind a little bit more focused. In fact, there's some lovely breathing, counting, and using the body yogic practices that help people, and I use them sometimes when I need to get back to sleep, that really help focus the mind. Instead of I can't go to sleep, I can't go to sleep, my mind is racing, you focus on the body and the breath and counting, and that actually is a wonderful practice as well. And it also, as I said, it's a little bit more exciting, because at least there's some change. There's a different number each time that we get to count. And I do want to emphasize that there isn't any goal. You don't get a gold star for making it to 10, which if you do, you're probably better than me, because I can't make it. I'm not even sure how far I'm going to make it today. It's an awareness practice. It's a mindfulness practice, just noticing what happens. And if what you find is that you are particularly attached to the counting, and when you have to restart, that's really challenging for you, then please let go of the counting, because I want you to have a beautiful meditation today and not force it. So you get to notice. You're probably a really goal-oriented person. And is that something that you'd like to, change and work with? And this may be a practice that you can do that with. And the only other thing I'd like to say is, that our intention is to be mindful of what gets in the way, and to ultimately slow down as we would with any meditation, to still the mind. So all the things that we want to do with our meditation, to be present, to still the mind, to slow down, to feel ourself and body, all of that is still here. We're just adding a little bit of deeper practice to this. And remember to be compassionate with yourself if this is not an easy practice for you. So the chant that I wanted to share today, and hopefully the microphone will cooperate, is a lovely woman who was in a program that I used to run, and who's now still a lovely woman and a rabbi. And she wrote this chant based on Psalm 46, line 11, which that part of that line says, "Be still and know that I am Elohim, be still and know that I am God." And she changed it to this wonderful, she didn't change it, she left a word off, "Be still and know that I am." And so you can, if it, you can have that sense of be still and know that, Yud He Vav He, oneness, God is there with you in the stillness. Or, and you can also just, in my stillness, I am beingness. That is how I am connecting to that oneness through the stillness. I am. And Yud He Vav He is beingness and amness, just as when Moses was on Mount Sinai and said to God, actually, was it Sinai? No, it wasn't. It was the first time when he sees God at the burning bush, and he said, "What is your name?" And in the Hebrew, it's Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. I am that what I am, or I am beingness. I will always be beingness. There are many ways that it gets translated, and they're all good. So we are beingness. So remembering and connecting to that. And we'll move from the chant into the meditation. I'll do a little bit of guiding for you in the beginning, and then leave you to be following your breath cycle and counting and seeing what happens. And then I'll wake us up, bring us back with a bell. Okay. Be still and know that I am. 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 So we start with noticing the breath in the body, noticing your own inhale, and noticing your exhale. Notice as you breathe in, receiving life, chest expanding, lungs expanding, And as you exhale, returning your life energy into the greater creative force, chest softening, belly softening, lungs contracting. And as you breathe in, feeling filled up. And as you're breathing out, emptying, breathing in, receiving, breathing out, releasing. And noticing if there's anywhere in the body that needs to shift so that you're comfortable. Maybe bringing the body over the pelvis, neck over the shoulders. Sitting up, not stretching, but sitting up so as to allow the breath to flow easily in the body. Resting the hands comfortably, either in the lap or on the legs. Allowing the body to be a vessel even more fully for the breath. The breath that renews life every time it comes in and goes out, that cycle of life in each of us. And we move to a little focus, seeing if we can string together a couple of breaths, paying attention. So as you inhale fully and deeply, whatever's comfortable for you, and exhale, just gently saying to yourself, 1. And when you take your next breath in and out, saying to yourself, 2. And continuing in this fashion. And when you notice that your mind has drifted away and got distracted, as it most certainly will, just notice how you're feeling and what you know about the distraction. And then come back on the next breath cycle. 2, 1. And we'll take a bit of time, next 20 minutes, in this meditation together. And do remember, if this does not feel like it is giving you peace, then go back to just simply following the breath and letting go of any need to count. Welcome back, taking a nice breath in and allowing yourself to move and come back. I wanted to read one more thing before we say goodbye to those on the live stream and the video. There was a lovely, I guess I like the word lovely. There is a lovely young Dutch Jewish woman who wrote, who was killed in the Holocaust, that I discovered maybe 10 or so years ago. Some people think of her as like the adult Anne Frank. She kept diary and she wrote, and she was a writer, and her name was Etty Hillesum. And her life is pretty amazing. So she became more deeply spiritual as the challenges of the war started showing up and people started getting deported. And she chose actually to go and be in a concentration camp, even though the job that she had would have given her some protection, at least for a while. So quite inspiring, righteous person. Her diaries and writings she gave to somebody before, as she was being transported to Auschwitz, and they were not able to get published until 1981. A Dutch company published them, and then they were finally translated into English in 2002, which I think why she is not as well known. And it's called An Interrupted Life. And she wrote this beautifully. She wrote a lot of beautifully inspiring quotes, and this one seemed fitting to share with you today. She said, "Sometimes the most important thing in a whole day is the rest we take between two deep breaths, or the turning inwards in prayer for 5 short minutes." So I hope that you had some rest in your breaths, and I hope that you felt that today was prayer. I see meditation as prayer, silence as prayer. And so as we end our time together, I want to thank you all for your presence and for meditating. For those of you on the Zoom, we'll have a chance to share and respond. But for those that are leaving us on the live stream, the divine that is in me salutes and honors the divine spark that is in you. And B'Tselem Yah, you are made in the image of Yah.